congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Lancaster and Fleetwood, for securing this very important debate. As the IDF ramps up operations in Rafah, there are no remaining safe zones left in Gaza. Nearly 35,000 Palestinians have been killed, over 75,000 injured, and more than 1.5 million displaced. I know members have heard these figures before, but I think it's important that we repeat them as often as possible. People who have already been forced out of their homes are having to flee once again. According to an interim damage assessment conducted by the World Bank and the UN, $18.5 billion worth of damage to critical infrastructure has been done. 74% of this is housing, and 84% of health facilities in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. Those that are left are barely functioning. Doctors are having to amputate children and perform C-sections without anaesthetic. It's worth restating the fact that under the Geneva Conventions, the forcible transfer of civilian population is a war crime, as is the deliberate targeting of civilian infrastructure. Yet even after the ICJ ruling, our government's decision to keep supplying military hardware to Israel and our government's failure to push for a lasting ceasefire mean that the UK is wholly complicit in creating the conditions for the humanitarian crisis we are now witnessing. We have a responsibility to help those suffering. I will give way.
Me?
Excellent speech that she's outlining. A number of members this afternoon have highlighted the Ukrainian scheme and the fact that that was dependent on our local councils welcoming and helping families in our boroughs. My honourable friend and I share the same borough in Lambeth. Lambeth was awarded the Borough Sanctuary in December 2022, recognising the fact that people want to help. Our constituents want to help, aided with the council. Does she agree that one of the things that the government need to do in response to what she's just highlighted is have a full, proper assessment why they don't have a scheme in place, like many members have said this afternoon?
I thank my honourable friend for her intervention, and she's absolutely right. The government should have a full assessment. But unfortunately, the government's response to the plight of Palestinian refugees has been typical of their punitive approach to people seeking safety. Now, I found this out for myself when a constituent of mine attempted to apply for his family members to join him in February. They were rejected because they couldn't provide biometric data. But I was appalled to actually find this out in writing, that the Home Office actually wrote this down, that this is because the government expects Palestinian refugees from Gaza to apply in Ramallah or Jerusalem or in a nearby country, effectively telling people to travel through an active war zone to submit this information. Besides the current conflict, Gaza has been under blockade for years. People from Gaza do not casually leave and travel and go to different parts of the country. They simply do not. His Majesty's Home Office should be embarrassed to send such a ridiculous and ignorant response. And if they're not embarrassed, I am thoroughly embarrassed for them. Those seeking to leave Gaza are trapped in a catch-22 because of this situation. They can't enrol their biometrics because they can't leave Gaza, and they can't leave Gaza because they can't enrol their biometrics. According to the Gaza Families Reunited campaign, at least 2 Palestinians are now known to have died while waiting for the Home Office to decide on their applications. My constituent says, I do not think I'm being treated fairly at all. I came to the UK on a work permit and I've never applied for assistance from the UK government. He just wants the UK government to help his family. Now, it's hard to argue with this because when millions were displaced by Russia's appalling invasion of Ukraine in 2021, the government had the Homes for Ukraine scheme live in a matter of weeks. It's right that this happened, and I believe the government hasn't done enough for Ukrainian refugees. However, when the conflict began in Gaza and thousands and over a million were displaced, where was the Homes for Palestinian scheme? All options are closed to my constituents' family, and it's worth repeating that the Home Office has rejected every single request for biometric deferral and predetermination since the 7th of October. The response I got when I wrote to the Home Secretary, or wrote to the Home Office again, was this. They said to my constituent, I have considered whether there are compelling, compassionate circumstances in your case which would warrant a grant of leave outside of the immigration rules. However, based on the information you have provided, I have decided there is no such circumstances in your case. 35,000 killed, over 75,000 injured, people starving and 1.5 million displaced. But there is no such circumstances that our Home Office can see that they should grant people outside of the current immigration rules. That is an absolute disgrace. Now, in comparison, between the 15th of March 2022 and the 7th of December 2023, Ukrainian nationals could apply online without the need to enrol their biometrics until after reaching safety in the UK. Again, this was absolutely right to do, but why are Palestinians being denied the same conditions and compassion? When the Minister responds, I want to understand the government's justification for these double standards. And I want the Minister to understand why there are so many people right across this country that believe those reasons revolve around racism and geopolitics. There is nothing that Palestinians want more than a safe return to their home. But the inordinate civilian death toll in this conflict means that, sadly, many Palestinians simply will not be alive to exercise this right. From the Skies Picket Agreement to the Balfour Declaration, the betrayals of McMahon and the invasion of Allenby's forces, we have to acknowledge that it was long-standing British policy to displace Palestinians from their homes. This shared colonial history means that we have a unique responsibility towards Palestinian refugees and a particular responsibility to push for peace in the region. It is one that this government has completely shirked so far. So I urge the Minister to listen to the thousands who have signed this petition, including hundreds of my own constituents, and create a Palestinian family reunion scheme. And as well as supporting people displaced by the war in Gaza, we need the government to do something about the root causes of this displacement. That means suspending arms sales and pushing for an immediate and permanent ceasefire.